Life has a way of testing us in ways we don't always expect. Each one of us faces challenges that can sometimes feel overwhelming. There are moments when the weight of our responsibilities, the demands on our time, and the burdens of our personal struggles seem too much to bear. You may feel like you've been running a race with no end in sight, or like the road ahead is just too difficult to keep walking. In these moments, it's easy to feel like you're all alone, like no one truly understands the depth of what you're going through. But I want you to know that God sees you. He knows exactly what you're experiencing, and He hasn't forgotten you. Even when it feels like no one else notices, God sees every effort you make. He sees the quiet sacrifices, the times you choose to push through despite the pain, and the moments when you give all you have, even when you feel like you're running on empty. It's easy to think that your hard work goes unnoticed, especially when the world doesn't always give you the recognition you deserve. But take comfort in knowing that God sees your heart. He knows your struggle, and He knows the strength it takes to keep going when everything inside you just wants to give up. Sometimes we forget that it's okay to be tired. We live in a world that tells us to keep moving, to keep striving, to never show weakness. But God doesn't expect us to carry every burden on our own. He's with us every step of the way, ready to give us the strength we need. The Word of God reminds us that He is near to the brokenhearted and that He gives rest to those who are weary. He doesn't want you to stay in that place of exhaustion because He knows that it's in those moments that He can renew you, restore you, and give you the energy to keep going. There's a promise that God has made to us, and it's that His grace is sufficient. When you feel like you've reached your breaking point, that's often when God's power is most evident. He doesn't want you to rely on your own strength. He wants you to lean on Him. In your weakness, He can be your strength. And though you might be tired right now, know that God is preparing something beautiful for your future. The struggles you face today are shaping you into the person He's calling you to be, and your breakthrough is just ahead. As you face each new day, remember that God knows exactly where you are. He's aware of your fatigue, your frustrations, and your fears. But He's also aware of the strength He's placed inside of you. So take heart, knowing that the same God who created the heavens and the earth is with you in your struggle. He will not leave you in your weariness, and He will see you through to the other side. Your breakthrough, your restoration, and your victory are closer than you think. There are moments in life when it feels like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. You look around and it seems like everyone else is going on with their lives, but you're stuck in the middle of your own struggle. You may feel isolated, as though your pain is too unique, too personal for anyone to understand. But in those moments of loneliness, remember this: you are never truly alone. God is always with you, even when you can't see Him or feel His presence. He's right there, walking beside you through your toughest times. When you're in the midst of a difficult season, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that you're the only one going through such hardship. You might wonder, why me? Why does it seem like everyone else has it together while I'm just barely hanging on? But that's the enemy's lie, meant to make you feel isolated and forgotten. The truth is that no matter how lonely or overwhelmed you may feel, God is there every step of the way. He knows your heart, He knows your struggles, and He's right there with you, helping you carry those burdens. Even when the road gets rocky and you feel like you're walking through fire, God promises to never leave your side. Think about the story of the 3 men in the fiery furnace. They were thrown into a blazing fire for standing firm in their faith, yet God didn't leave them to face it alone. In fact, He showed up in the fire with them. The flames didn't consume them, and the heat didn't harm them because God was with them. And in the same way, when you're going through tough times, you're not alone. God is walking through the fire with you, providing the strength you need to stand firm. In the moments where you feel most vulnerable, God's presence is often most powerful. We may not always feel His presence physically, but that doesn't mean He's not with us. God is faithful. He will carry you through the hardest seasons, even when you can't see how you'll make it to the other side. Sometimes it's in those very moments of exhaustion and pain that He does His best work, strengthening us in ways we may never fully understand. When you're too weak to stand on your own, He's there, lifting you up. So take comfort in knowing that no matter how heavy your burdens feel, you are never walking this journey alone. God is always with you, And His presence is a constant reminder that you don't have to face your struggles by yourself. He's not just watching from afar. He's right there with you, offering His peace, His strength, and His love. Whatever you're facing today, remember that God walks with you and He will see you through. Every day you wake up and give your best. Sometimes it feels like your efforts go unnoticed. You might work tirelessly, sacrificing time, energy, and even pieces of yourself for the sake of others or the goals you have. There are nights when you push through exhaustion, hoping for a breakthrough or even just a sense of peace. It's easy to fall into the belief that your hard work doesn't matter because no one else seems to acknowledge it. You may feel invisible, like your struggles are unseen by the world around you, but the truth is God sees every single effort you make in the quiet moments when no one is watching. God sees your dedication. He sees the long hours you put in when others are resting. He knows the weight you carry even when you don't say a word about it. While others may overlook your sacrifices, God never misses a single detail. He doesn't need a crowd to see your worth. He knows exactly what you're doing, and He is paying attention. The Bible tells us that even a cup of cold water given in His name is noticed. So imagine how deeply He values all the acts of love, care, and hard work you pour into your life and others. Sometimes it's easy to get discouraged, especially when the results of your efforts don't come as quickly as you hope. It's in these moments that we can start questioning whether it's worth it. But I want to remind you that your efforts are never in vain. God promises that everything you do, when done with the right heart, has eternal value. Even when the results are not immediately visible, God is at work, shaping you and preparing you for something greater. He is faithful to reward those who stay faithful, even when the world doesn't see or appreciate the work you're doing. It's important to remember that the effort you put forth is not just about the outcome, it's about the process and the heart behind it. God values the heart behind your actions. He sees your willingness to continue even when it feels like the road is too hard. Each sacrifice you make, each time you keep moving forward despite fatigue or doubt, God is taking notice. He is building in you a strength and character that will serve you in the future. Even if you don't see it now, know that your perseverance is forming something beautiful in you. So when you feel weary or unappreciated, take comfort in the fact that God sees you. He knows the effort, the sacrifice, and the love you're pouring out. While others may fail to acknowledge it, He never misses a moment. Keep going with the confidence that your work has meaning, that your labor is seen, and that your reward is secure in His timing. God doesn't forget your efforts. And in due time, He will bring about the blessings and breakthroughs you've been faithfully working toward. There are times in life when we feel misunderstood, as if no one truly sees the depth of our struggles. We carry burdens that others can't always perceive, the silent battles, the unseen fears, the hopes and dreams that lie deep within us. In those moments of vulnerability, it's easy to feel alone, as though no one understands the complexity of what we're going through. But let me remind you today, God knows your heart. He knows the things that no one else sees. And He understands the weight you carry even when you can't express it in words. You don't have to explain everything to Him. He already knows. God is not just aware of the struggles you face on the outside, but He understands the hidden struggles of your heart. He knows the quiet fears that keep you up at night, the dreams that seem out of reach, and the desires that only you carry within. While the world may focus on outward appearances or the surface level issues, God sees beyond that. He sees the heart behind every action, every tear, and every quiet prayer. You may feel like no one truly knows you, but God sees you completely. Your hopes, your wounds, and everything in between. Even in your weakest moments, when you feel like giving up or when life seems too much to handle, God is fully aware of the strength you possess. It's in those times of struggle that your courage shines brightest. When you press on despite the pain, when you continue to fight even when you're exhausted, that's when your true strength is revealed. And God sees that strength even when you doubt it yourself. He knows that you are more resilient than you realize, and that His power is at work within you, even in your moments of weakness. Your courage doesn't go unnoticed in His eyes. What's amazing about God's understanding is that He doesn't just see the struggles we face, but He also knows the potential within us. He sees the future He's preparing for us, the growth that will come through the trials, and the person we will become on the other side. So even when you feel like you're falling short or that you're not enough, Remember that God sees you as more than what you are in this moment. He sees the strength, the courage, and the potential that are still unfolding. And He believes in you sometimes more than you believe in yourself. God's deep knowledge of your heart brings comfort, especially when the world seems to misunderstand or overlook you. He knows the desires you hold close, the things you long for, and the dreams that you're too afraid to share. He's not surprised by your struggles or your dreams. He's already seen them from the beginning. Rest in the fact that God sees you completely, your heart, your fears, your dreams, and He will walk with you through every challenge, guiding you toward the life He's prepared for you. You are known, you are seen, and you are loved. We all go through seasons in life when exhaustion feels overwhelming. The weight of responsibilities, challenges, and the demands of everyday life can leave us physically, mentally, and emotionally drained. There are times when it feels like there's no end in sight and the desire for rest becomes almost unbearable. In these moments, it's important to remember that God sees your weariness. He knows what it feels like to be overwhelmed, and He doesn't want you to stay in that place of exhaustion. Rest is not just something He promises, it is something He is offering to you right now. The promise of rest is not just physical relief, it is a deep soul ministering peace. God invites you to bring your burdens to Him, to lay them down and trust that He will give you rest. His word is clear. Come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest. This is not a vague promise. It is a tangible assurance that God will provide exactly what you need to restore your spirit. Rest isn't something that's earned through hard work or perfect performance. It's a gift from a loving Father who cares deeply for your well-being. Sometimes we can become so focused on our circumstances that we forget to take a step back and seek the rest that God has promised. We might push through, thinking that if we keep going, eventually we'll find peace. But God's rest is not something we can achieve through our own strength. It is found in surrender when we acknowledge that we can't do it all on our own and that we need His help. When we bring our exhaustion to Him, we open ourselves up to the healing and renewal He's waiting to give. What makes God's rest so powerful is that it is not temporary, it's rest restorative. The kind of rest God offers isn't just a break from the demands of life, but a complete restoration of our strength and our spirit. It's the kind of rest that restores your peace, your joy, and your hope. In moments when you feel like you can't keep going, His rest will fill you up in ways you never imagined. The restoration He offers is not just a pause, but a deep renewal that will enable you to move forward with renewed strength and purpose. If you're feeling exhausted today, know that rest is coming. It might not come in the way you expect, but God's promise is true. There is a season of restoration ahead for you. It's closer than you think. God's rest is not something to be earned. It is a gift that He is extending to you. So take a moment to breathe, release your burdens, and trust that God is at work preparing you for the peace and restoration that you so desperately need. He sees your weariness, and He is already making a way for your renewal. There are moments in life when we find ourselves at the end of our strength. We reach a point where it feels like we've given everything we have, yet the challenges keep coming. It's as if we're standing at the edge of a cliff, feeling like we can't take another step, unable to go any further. These are the times when we're most vulnerable, when we're most aware of our limitations. But it's in these very moments of weakness that God shows up in the most powerful way. When we can't go on, He steps in and provides a strength that is not our own. God's strength doesn't come to us in our moments of self-sufficiency. It comes when we are at our lowest. His power is made perfect in our weakness. This means that when we feel like we have nothing left to give, that's when He can show us just how much He's capable of. It's in the places where we think we'll break that He demonstrates His ability to hold us up. The Apostle Paul writes in Corinthians 12:9, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. God's strength is not limited by our weakness. Rather, it shines brightest when we're at our weakest. We often think of weakness as something to be ashamed of or something to avoid, but God uses our vulnerability as a canvas for His power. When we reach the breaking point, we give God the space to work in ways that we could never imagine. Our weaknesses create an opportunity for Him to demonstrate His grace and to show us that we don't have to do everything in our own strength. What we might see as a limitation, God sees as a perfect opportunity to display His glory. When we surrender our weakness to Him, we make room for His power to move in our lives. The turning point comes when we choose to rely on God instead of our own abilities. It's hard to let go of control, especially when we're used to trying to handle everything ourselves. But when we come to the end of ourselves and acknowledge that we need Him, that's when God can truly move. In those moments, we're not relying on our own strength anymore. Instead, we're leaning on the supernatural strength that only He can provide. This is the kind of strength that doesn't just get us through our struggles, but transforms us in the process. What we thought was going to break us can be the very thing that builds us up stronger than before. So if you're feeling weak today, remember this. Your weakness is not something to fear or hide from. It's an invitation for God's power to take over. In the moments when you think you can't take another step, that's when He will carry you. Your breaking point can become a turning point, a place where God's glory shines through. The strength you need is already available to you. All you have to do is let go, trust in His power, and watch Him work wonders in your life. We all go through difficult times. Times when the weight of our struggles seems unbearable and it feels like we're carrying more than we can handle. It's easy to think that the hardships we face define us. The moments of failure, the disappointments, and the exhaustion can cloud our vision and make us question who we are. We may feel broken, overwhelmed, or like we've lost our way, but I want to remind you today that your struggles do not define you. Your circumstances do not have the final say in who you are or what you are capable of becoming. God, who created you, is the one who gets to define you, and He calls you strong, loved, and full of purpose. Your identity is not based on the setbacks you face or the challenges you're going through right now. In fact, the hardships you encounter don't change who you are at your core. They may test your faith, they may challenge your strength, but they do not alter your worth. God has already spoken over your life, and He sees you for who you truly are, His beloved child. You may be tired, you may be struggling, but you are not your struggles. You are not the mistakes you've made or the battles you've lost. You are defined by God's love for you, and nothing can take that away. The enemy loves to attack our identity during times of hardship, making us feel like we are failures or not good enough. But these are lies. No matter how many times you've fallen or how difficult things may seem, your worth has never wavered in God's eyes. You are not defined by your failures, your mistakes, or your challenges. God looks at you with love and compassion, and He sees the strength that you often fail to recognize in yourself. In Him, you are more than a conqueror, and your potential is greater than you can imagine. What you face today is only temporary, but who you are in God is eternal. When you go through difficult seasons, it's important to remind yourself that these moments do not define your future. The obstacles in front of you may feel insurmountable, but they are not the final chapter of your story. You are strong enough to overcome whatever is in your path because God is with you every step of the way. Your identity is rooted in the truth that you are loved, you are capable, and you are equipped for whatever challenges lie ahead. God doesn't look at you and see your struggles. He sees the person He created, the person He has called to greatness. Remember that your struggles, no matter how difficult, are part of your story, but they do not define by the hardships you face. You are defined by the hardships you face. You are defined by the love, grace, and strength that God has placed within you. No matter where you are right now, know that God has already given you everything you need to overcome. His strength is made perfect in your weakness, and His love is what truly defines you. You are strong, you are loved, and you are capable of overcoming every challenge that comes your way. Waiting can feel like one of the hardest things we're asked to do in life. We live in a world that thrives on instant gratification, where everything from food to information is available at the touch of a button. But when it comes to the deeper desires of our hearts, the things we hope for and long for, the timing doesn't always match our expectations. We want answers now. We want solutions now. Yet God's timing is often different from our own. And while that may feel frustrating at times, it's important to remember that His timing is always perfect. When we find ourselves in seasons of waiting, it's easy to feel like nothing is happening. We may wonder if God has forgotten us or if we've done something wrong to cause the delay. But in reality, God is always at work behind the scenes, even when we can't see it. He's orchestrating things in our favor, preparing the right people, the right circumstances, and the perfect moment for the breakthrough we've been praying for. The Bible reminds us that in due season we will reap if we do not give up. Galatians 6 verse 9, just because we can't see the full picture doesn't mean God isn't moving. Trusting in God's timing requires us to release our own expectations and surrender to His plan. It's hard to let go of our own timeline, especially when we've been waiting for so long. But in doing so, we allow God to work things out in the best way possible. Often His delays are not denials. There may be things that need to fall into place before we're ready for the next step. It's like a puzzle. Sometimes the pieces have to fit in just the right order before the picture becomes clear. Trusting in His timing means believing that He is not only preparing the way for us, but also preparing us for the way. In moments of weariness and impatience, remember that God's timing is never late, and it's never early. It's always exactly when it needs to be. The waiting is not in vain. During this time, God is strengthening your faith, teaching you patience, and preparing your heart for what's to come. Your breakthrough is coming, but it may be more meaningful and impactful when it happens at the right moment. The timing of your breakthrough could also be part of His larger plan to bring about something bigger than what you even imagined. So, when you find yourself struggling to wait, hold on to the truth that God is faithful. He knows exactly when the right moment is, and He won't let you down. Trust that He is working behind the scenes, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Your breakthrough is coming, and it will come at the perfect time when you are ready and when everything is in place. Until then, keep trusting, keep believing, and know that God is always at work in your life, even in the waiting. I know that right now life may seem overwhelming and the road you're walking feels longer than you anticipated. You might find yourself in the middle of a challenging season, one where the weight of your circumstances feels heavy and unrelenting. You've been through setbacks, disappointments, and heartaches. And in moments like this, it's easy to wonder if things will ever get better. But I want to remind you today that even in the midst of struggle, the best is yet to come. Your future is filled with promise. And God is at work in ways you may not even fully understand yet. Though the journey may be difficult now, don't let that make you lose sight of the hope that lies ahead. You see, God is a master at turning things around. He has a way of taking what seems broken, hopeless, or out of control and making it whole again. While it's easy to focus on what is wrong right now, you must remember that God's plan for your life is far greater than what you can see in the present. Even when you feel stuck, when you can't see the way forward, God is preparing you for something greater. Your circumstances do not define your future. What God has in store for you is far beyond what you can imagine. Keep trusting that He is moving behind the scenes and that the best is still ahead of you. This doesn't mean that everything will be perfect or that the challenges will disappear overnight. But it does mean that God is working all things together for your good. There is purpose in every season, even the tough ones, and God is shaping you through them. When you look back on this time, you will see how it helped build strength, resilience, and a deeper trust in Him. Every season, good or bad, is part of the larger story God is writing for your life. And while you may not fully understand it now, you can trust that He is leading you to a place of breakthrough. The waiting is hard. The uncertainty can feel unbearable at times. But do not give up. The breakthrough you've been hoping for, the peace you've been longing for, and the victory you've been praying for are closer than you think. The best is yet to come. Not because everything is going to be perfect, but because God is going to make all things work together for your good in ways you couldn't have imagined. He's going to surprise you with blessings, open doors you thought were closed, and bring people and opportunities into your life that will change everything. Hold on to the belief that your future is filled with hope. So, in this moment when the road feels difficult and the weight of the world is on your shoulders, remember that God has not forgotten you. He has a plan for you that is filled with good things. Trust that He is guiding you, even in the hard times, towards something amazing. You may not see it now, but the best is yet to come. Your future is filled with hope, and with every step you take, God is preparing you for the blessings that are on the way. Don't lose heart, because the best is just around the corner. I know that life can sometimes feel like an uphill battle. You're doing your best to keep going, but with every step, the weight of your struggles seems to grow heavier. It's easy to feel as though you're alone in your journey. wondering if anyone truly understands the depth of your weariness. But I want you to hear this today. God sees you. He sees the tears you've cried in the quiet moments, the long nights you've spent wondering how you'll make it through. He sees your efforts, your sacrifice, and your determination, even when no one else does. In the midst of it all, He is with you, and He knows exactly what you're going through. God's understanding of your struggles is not limited to the surface level. He knows the emotions you carry, the pain that weighs on your heart, and the doubts that creep into your mind. He doesn't just see your circumstances, He sees the deeper parts of you, your heart, your spirit, and the burdens you may not even have the words for. When you're feeling exhausted and overwhelmed, remember that He is right there beside you, fully aware of your situation. And He is never too far away to offer you the comfort and strength you need. It's easy to get caught up in the rush of life and forget to pause, to rest, to breathe. We live in a world that constantly demands more from us, and it can leave us feeling drained and empty. But in those moments when you feel like you can't keep going, God is offering you rest. He's not asking you to carry the weight on your own. In Matthew 11:28, Jesus invites us, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Take that invitation to heart today. Know that you don't have to do it alone. God is waiting to refresh your soul and give you the strength to keep moving forward. The truth is, God is always at work, even when we can't see it. While you may not feel it in every moment, He is making a way for you. He is working behind the scenes, preparing the perfect timing for your breakthrough. There are seasons when it seems like nothing is happening, but in reality, God is laying the groundwork for something incredible. The strength you need to keep going is already on the way, and your perseverance is never in vain. He is shaping you, refining you, and getting you ready for the blessings that are ahead. Your breakthrough is closer than you think, so I want to encourage you today. Don't give up. Even in the moments when you feel like you can't take another step, trust that God is with you and He is working on your behalf. The breakthrough you've been waiting for is just ahead. Rest in the assurance that God sees you and understands everything you're going through. He's not going anywhere, and He will never leave you. Keep moving forward with faith, because the strength you need is already on its way. Your breakthrough is waiting for you, and it's closer than you realize.